The unexpected encounter. The sky above Earth was quiet. For years, humans had looked up at the stars, unaware of the growing threat that loomed in the vastness of space. The Galactic Empire, a powerful and ruthless force, had conquered countless worlds. Their massive fleets moved across the galaxy like a storm, and no one dared stand in their way. For centuries, they ruled with fear and strength. But today, something was about to change. The Empire's fleet arrived near Earth's orbit without warning. Massive warships filled the sky, blocking out the stars like a dark, looming shadow. The humans on Earth had no idea what was happening. One moment, the sky was peaceful. The next, it was filled with the sound of ships, engines roaring as they approached. The ships of the Empire were designed for war, huge, intimidating, and armed with weapons powerful enough to destroy entire planets. At first, people thought it was some sort of military exercise. But as the ships drew closer, the truth became clear. Earth was under threat. The Galactic Empire had arrived. The humans had no idea what to do. Governments scrambled to prepare. Military forces were put on high alert, and every news station broadcasted the strange, unfamiliar ships in the sky. The entire planet was in a state of panic. But amid the chaos, something unusual was happening in the control rooms of Earth's military forces. They were not retreating in fear. They were preparing for something different. On the surface, the human forces seemed unprepared. How could they possibly defend themselves against such a powerful enemy? What could their small, humble ships do against the might of the Galactic Empire? But the humans had something the Empire didn't expect. While the Empire assumed humanity was weak, backward, and incapable of standing up to them, they were wrong. The humans had been hiding their true power, and now was the time to show it. As the ships of the Galactic Empire hovered above Earth, the humans sent out a single message, encrypted and short. "We're ready." The Empire's command center burst into laughter. "They're trying to play brave," one officer said, mocking the humans. "How foolish. They think we're going to fall for that." The laughter echoed through the Empire's ranks, but no one realized the gravity of the situation. The humans were not bluffing. They had planned for this moment, and they were not going to be intimidated. From the Empire's perspective, this was just another world to conquer. They had destroyed entire civilizations before, and Earth would be no different. They had no idea what they were walking into. As the Empire's commander gave the order to proceed, they didn't realize that their approach was being closely watched by Earth's best minds. Every move they made was being tracked. Every signal they sent was intercepted and analyzed. The humans had no intention of waiting around to be destroyed. Instead, they were planning something unexpected. The Galactic Empire's ships began to move into position, preparing for a show of force. Massive energy cannons powered up, and the Empire's commanders thought they would strike fear into the hearts of humanity with their superior firepower. Their plan was simple: demand submission or destroy Earth. But they had made one crucial mistake. They underestimated the humans. As the fleet moved into position, the skies above Earth suddenly lit up. Not with the Empire's weapons, but with the unexpected brilliance of human technology. Ships, once thought obsolete, suddenly rose from Earth's surface. They were small, sleek, and unlike anything the Empire had seen. Their weapons, too, were unlike anything the Empire had expected. The Galactic Empire had anticipated an easy victory, but they were about to learn just how wrong they were. In a control room deep below the Earth's surface, a group of engineers and military leaders stood in silence as they watched the skies. Their faces were a mixture of nervous anticipation and quiet determination. They had spent years developing weapons that the Galactic Empire could never imagine. Now the time had come to reveal them. "Are we ready?" one officer asked. "We're ready," the engineer replied, his voice calm but filled with a sense of pride. The battle for Earth had begun, but the humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something more: pride, freedom, and the right to defend their home. And the Galactic Empire, confident in its power, had no idea what was coming next. As the Empire's ships prepared to strike, Earth's forces made their move. The small human ships darted toward the Empire's massive fleet, launching their first attack. It wasn't a show of force, it was a surprise. The Empire's commanders were stunned by the speed and precision of the humans' movements. They had never seen anything like it before. Earth wasn't fighting a battle. They were launching an assault. In the heart of the Galactic Empire's fleet, the commanders began to panic. The humans were not running. They were not begging for mercy. They were fighting back with everything they had. And for the first time in their long history of conquest, the Empire realized they had underestimated humanity. The battle had just begun, and already the Galactic Empire was in shock. The humans had done something no one thought possible. They had not only met the Empire's challenge, they were fighting back with unimaginable force. And the Empire's leaders, once so confident in their invincibility, had no idea how to stop it. The battle unfolds. The Galactic Empire had never faced anything like this before. Their vast armada, accustomed to crushing entire civilizations with overwhelming force, found itself struggling against the unpredictable and relentless nature of human tactics. Earth's ships, small yet surprisingly fast, darted in and out of the Empire's larger, slower ships. They didn't engage head-on. Instead, they used speed and agility to their advantage, striking at weak points in the Empire's defenses. The Empire's fleet had once been an unstoppable force, an ocean of ships and firepower. But now, as the first waves of human ships launched their attacks, the Empire's commanders realized they were up against something different. The humans didn't fight like anyone they had ever fought before. Their tactics were unconventional, their weapons fierce and precise. For every shot the Empire fired, the humans dodged or countered with a rapid strike of their own. It was chaos. The Empire's ships tried to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already planted the seed of doubt. Earth wasn't just surviving. They were fighting back, and the Empire had underestimated their resolve. In the midst of the chaos, a young human commander, Captain Emily Hart, stood at the helm of her ship. She wasn't part of the largest force, but she was determined. Her ship, the Resolute, was one of the smaller crafts that had been part of the initial response. She had led her team through countless skirmishes in Earth's defense. But this was different. This was war. "Captain, we're getting too close to the enemy flagship," her communications officer warned, his voice tense. "Keep moving forward. Stay agile. Don't let them corner us," Captain Hart ordered with confidence. She had trained for this moment her entire life. No one would intimidate her, not the Galactic Empire, and certainly not their fleet. As the Resolute weaved between the larger Empire ships, the crew worked together like a well-oiled machine. Their weapons fired with deadly precision, and their shields absorbed the enemy's retaliatory blasts. The humans were not just defending. They were waging war with a fierce determination that had never been seen in this galaxy. On the command ship of the Empire, Supreme Commander Darwin paced nervously. He had never felt fear in his long career. He had crushed entire worlds without hesitation, leaving only dust and ashes in his wake. Yet, as he watched his fleet struggle against the humans, doubt crept into his mind. "This cannot be happening," Darwin muttered. "The humans, they're outmatching us." His voice was barely a whisper, but in the silence of his command room, it felt as if it had echoed across the universe. "Supreme Commander," an officer said hesitantly, "their tactics are unconventional. It's like they've studied us. They're countering everything we throw at them." The Supreme Commander clenched his fists, the weight of the situation settling heavily on his shoulders. This wasn't just a battle. It was a direct challenge to the Empire's authority. The Empire had long ruled through fear and dominance, but these humans, with their small, unassuming ships, had turned the tables. The Emperor's pride was on the line, and that was something Darwin knew could not be allowed to continue. "Prepare the fleet to retaliate," he ordered, though his voice lacked the usual confidence. We will not let a primitive species mock us. Back on Earth, the tide of battle was turning. The humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their future. They knew that if they failed here, their entire species would be wiped from existence. But they also knew something the Empire didn't. They had the advantage of unity, ingenuity, and a burning desire to protect their home. As Earth's ships continued their assault, the Empire's might began to falter. The Galactic Empire had relied on its sheer numbers and technological superiority, but the humans had turned the tables with their creativity and relentless spirit. The human fleet, though small in number, was like a swarm of hornets, striking at the Empire's weakest points and retreating before the Empire could retaliate. The Empire's flagship, Dominance, fired a massive energy beam towards Earth's capital city, attempting to break humanity's spirit. The beam blasted through space, a blinding streak of power. But just before it could strike, a human ship, a small scout vessel, intercepted the beam, sacrificing itself to save the city. The energy beam collided with the small ship, and the explosion lit up the sky. On the ground, people watched in awe and horror as the light from the explosion illuminated the atmosphere. The sacrifice of one human ship wasn't just a loss, it was a message to the Empire. The humans would fight until their last breath. They would not surrender. They would never kneel before anyone. The humans' message was clear, and it echoed across the Empire's ranks. Earth was not a planet to be conquered. Earth was a planet that would fight back, with everything it had. As the battle continued, the Supreme Commander watched in disbelief. The humans were no longer cowering in fear. They were fighting with the intensity of a species that had nothing to lose. And that was a force the Empire had never faced before. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for victory. And as the battle raged on, the fate of the Galactic Empire was beginning to look uncertain. The Empire's counterattack. The Galactic Empire, shaken by the unexpected human resistance, quickly regrouped. Supreme Commander Darwin knew they couldn't afford to underestimate the humans any longer. His fleet was more powerful, more advanced, but the humans' unpredictable tactics and their fierce will to survive had already cost them dearly. Something had to change, fast. Prepare the fleet for a full assault, Darwin ordered, his voice steady now, the previous uncertainty gone. We will crush them. For the Empire. The Empire's ships moved into formation, their massive cannons charging with enough energy to wipe entire continents from existence. Their plan was simple: overwhelm the humans with sheer force. The human fleet, despite their tenacity, was small compared to the vast Empire. The humans' hit-and-run tactics would not stand a chance against the power of the Empire's heavy artillery. But as the Empire's fleet advanced, the humans refused to back down. The resolute Captain Emily Hart's ship led the charge once again, weaving through the Empire's guns, dodging massive blasts, and firing back with deadly accuracy. The smaller human ships were quicker, and their advanced technology allowed them to stay one step ahead of the Empire's firepower. "Captain, we need to take down their flagship," her second-in-command, Lieutenant Jake Rivers, suggested as he monitored the tactical display. "If we can hit Dominance, we can break their coordination." Captain Hart nodded. "Agreed. But we can't afford to be reckless. We need to hit their weak spots, and hit hard." The human fleet split into smaller groups, each focusing on strategic targets. One group, led by the Resolute, charged toward the Empire's flagship, Dominance. Another set of ships darted towards the Empire's supply ships, aiming to cripple their resources. All the while, the Empire's guns blazed, but the humans kept moving, dodging, attacking with precision and force. On the Empire's side, Darwin watched with mounting frustration. The humans were relentless, refusing to break under pressure. They were clearly outclassed in firepower, yet they used their agility and strategy to evade the Empire's shots. He had underestimated their ingenuity, and now the cost was becoming apparent. Several of his ships had been disabled, leaving them drifting helplessly in the vacuum of space. "These creatures are unlike any we've encountered before," one of Darwin's officers muttered, watching the battle unfold in disbelief. "They fight like cornered animals, but they're not backing down." Darwin's face tightened. "Don't speak of them like that. They are humans, and they will pay for their defiance." The Empire's warships continued their assault, but the Dominance was the real prize. The flagship was the heart of the fleet, where all commands were issued, and its fall would spell disaster for the Empire's coordination. The humans knew that if they could cripple the Dominance, they could turn the tide of the battle. Captain Hart's voice rang through the comms. "All ships, prepare for the final push. We're going straight for the Dominance." With a surge of energy, the fleet shifted their focus to the Empire's flagship. The Resolute and its allies swarmed toward the heart of the Empire's forces, making daring strikes and weaving through enemy fire. The humans were not just fighting. They were trying to show the Empire that they would not be silenced. They would not kneel. As the human ships closed in on Dominance, the Empire's flagship responded with all its might. Beams of energy fired in all directions, trying to tear apart the human ships. But the humans were too fast, too agile, and their ships darted like lightning between the massive blasts. "Steady, steady," Captain Hart whispered to herself, gripping the controls with white knuckles. They were almost there. The Resolute led the charge, firing several bursts of energy at the flagship's shields. The Dominance retaliated with a massive energy blast, but the Resolute evaded just in time, causing the blast to miss by a fraction of a second. It was like a dance, an unpredictable fight of speed, strategy, and courage. The human fleet was pushing the Empire to the brink, and Darwin knew that they could not allow this to continue. His fleet was losing ships rapidly, and his flagship was under heavy assault. If the humans could get through the last line of defense, the Empire would lose the war. They were unprepared for the raw intensity and cleverness of humanity. The humans fought not just with weapons, but with their willpower, and that was something the Empire had never truly understood. "Fire everything," Darwin shouted, the desperation clear in his voice. He knew the Empire's survival depended on stopping the humans now. But it was too late. The Resolute and the other human ships had already found the weak spot in the Dominance's defenses. A powerful blast from a human ship hit the Empire flagship's engine core, causing a massive explosion that rippled through space. The shockwave tore through the fleet, sending Empire ships into chaos. The Dominance was crippled, its once proud exterior shattered and burning. The humans had done it. The battle was far from over, but the Empire had lost its strategic command center. The humans had struck at the heart of the Empire, and they had made their mark. The tables had turned, and for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire was not the hunter, it was the prey. As the smoke from the explosion cleared and the battle raged on, Captain Hart allowed herself a small, determined smile. The Empire might be powerful, but humanity's heart was stronger. And that, she knew, would be their greatest weapon. The turning tide. The aftermath of the Dominance's fall was immediate and catastrophic for the Galactic Empire. In the vacuum of space, its once mighty fleet was now in disarray. The loss of the flagship, the central command hub, sent shockwaves throughout the Empire's ranks. Without their leader, the Empire's ships faltered, and their once cohesive battle strategy began to crumble. The human ships, though still smaller in number, had gained a surprising upper hand. Their fleet, battered and bruised from the continuous fight, was now emboldened by their victory. The defeat of the Dominance was more than a tactical victory. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience and their refusal to be cowed by the might of the Empire. "We've got them on the ropes," Lieutenant Rivers reported, watching the display as the Empire's ships scattered and attempted to regroup. "We can push forward. If we take out their command ships, they'll be finished." Captain Hart nodded, but there was a look of caution in her eyes. "We can't get overconfident. We've only just started. The Empire's not going to let us win so easily." "Agreed," Rivers said, understanding the weight of her words. "But right now, they're in disarray. If we hit them hard enough, they won't recover. The decision was made. With the Empire's command structure in disarray, the human fleet pushed forward, regrouping for a final assault. Captain Hart knew this was their best chance to end the war and send a message to the Empire. Humanity would not be their slaves. Meanwhile, Darwin, aboard the battered Dominance, fought to maintain control. The explosion had ripped through the heart of his ship, but there was still hope. The Empire had vast resources. Its ships, though damaged, could still fight. But his crew's morale was shattered. They had never expected the humans to strike so decisively, so fearlessly. It was as though the humans were determined to prove that even the mightiest empire could fall. "We've lost the command center," Darwin growled, standing in front of his officers. "But we're not finished. We still have the fleet. We still have our strength. We can salvage this." But his officers were silent. There was no confidence in their eyes. The reality was setting in. They were losing. And worse, they were losing to a race they had long regarded as insignificant. "I need more time," Darwin snapped, pacing in front of the damaged consoles. "We can still turn this around, but I need more ships. I need—" A communication officer interrupted. "Commander, the humans are pushing forward. They're targeting our last remaining command ships." "Damn it," Darwin cursed under his breath. The Empire had always relied on its overwhelming firepower to crush its enemies, but now they faced something they hadn't expected. A determined, relentless enemy who fought with an iron will. As the human fleet advanced, the Resolute led the charge, its engines roaring as it closed in on the next target. The Empire's last remaining command ship. The humans knew the clock was ticking. The Empire could regroup and strike back if given the chance, but they had to act fast. "We're almost there," Captain Hart said, her voice calm but determined. She wasn't one for bravado. She didn't need to be. The humans had proven their worth, and they were about to prove it again. The fleet reached the command ship. The Empire's forces, though still strong, were divided and scattered. The human ships struck with precision, overwhelming the remaining defenses. One by one, the Empire's ships fell, their energy shields buckling under the relentless assault. "We've got them," Rivers said, his voice rising with excitement. "We're actually going to win." "Not yet," Captain Hart replied, though there was a small smile tugging at her lips. "We've still got work to do." The battle raged on, but the Empire's fate seemed sealed. The humans had not only pushed back the might of the Galactic Empire, they had broken its back. And though the fight would continue for some time, the Empire could never again hope to dominate the galaxy with the same arrogance and certainty. They had learned a harsh lesson: never underestimate humanity. As Captain Hart surveyed the battlefield, she felt a sense of pride. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. It was a victory born not of overwhelming strength, but of courage, ingenuity, and the unshakable will to protect their home. And as the last of the Empire's ships fell into retreat, Captain Hart made a vow. This war was over, but it was only the beginning. The Empire would never again threaten Earth, and humanity would stand as the equal of any civilization in the galaxy. The humans had not just defeated an empire. They had proved they were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Empire's last stand. With the majority of the Galactic Empire's ships scattered and their leadership in disarray, the final remnants of their forces retreated into the dark corners of space. The Empire had never faced such a loss. It wasn't just the destruction of ships or the fall of commanders. It was the crushing blow to their pride. For thousands of years, they had ruled, crushing civilizations underfoot, never doubting their own invincibility. Now, that belief had been shattered by a species they considered inferior. On the Resolute, the mood was one of cautious celebration. The battle was far from over, but humanity had made its mark. The sounds of their victory, the cheers, the clapping, the high fives, echoed through the corridors, but they all knew this was only the beginning of something much larger. Captain Hart stood in her command center, staring out at the field of destruction. The Empire's once mighty fleet was now a jumbled wreckage, scattered across the stars. The humans had taken a major step toward victory, but she knew that the war wasn't truly over until the Empire fully understood the cost of their aggression. "Lieutenant Rivers," Captain Hart said, her voice calm but firm, "I want every remaining fleet unit to start coordinating the chase. We cannot afford to let them regroup." "Yes, Captain," Rivers replied, his face a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. He knew the score. They had the upper hand, but that wouldn't last forever. The Empire still had resources, still had ships hiding in the distant reaches of the galaxy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Empire's commanders had retreated to their final strongholds, including the massive fortress-like Tyrant's Keep, a space station heavily guarded by what remained of their most formidable warriors. They had been given no choice. With their resources dwindling, their pride crushed, they had no option but to bunker down and make their last stand. Back aboard the Dominance, Darvin sat alone in the dimly lit command room, staring at a holographic map of the galaxy. His once proud fleet was now scattered, their pieces in disarray. There were still some remnants of the Empire's might, but without leadership, without unity, they were a fractured force. "Report," Darvin barked at the communications officer. "Sir, the humans have secured most of our command sectors. Our fleets are retreating to the outer colonies. We've lost communications with several sectors." Darvin slammed his fist on the console, anger flooding his system. His vision of galactic supremacy was crumbling. His enemies, the humans, had done what no one else could, stood against the might of the Empire and forced them to retreat. His once great fleets, which had swept through the stars, were now nothing more than a broken shell of what they once were. "The humans have humiliated us," he muttered to himself. His mind raced. What could he do? How could he salvage any semblance of the Empire's former glory? "There's still one option," his second-in-command, General Tavos, suggested carefully, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. Darvin turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Tavos paused, then said, "There's a deep space station, Tyrant's Keep. If we can regroup there, we might have a fighting chance. It's heavily fortified and hidden away in an uncharted part of the galaxy. It's our last hope." Darvin considered the proposal. Tyrant's Keep was their final bastion, a symbol of the Empire's strength. If they could regroup there, it could give them the time and space they needed to recover, rebuild, and strike back. But the humans would be on their tail. "We move to Tyrant's Keep immediately," Darvin decided, his voice cold and determined. "We have nothing left to lose." As Darvin and his fleet made their way to the dark corners of the galaxy, the human fleet, buoyed by their victory, pursued relentlessly. They knew the Empire would try to regroup, to make one final stand. The humans weren't about to give them the chance. Meanwhile, the battlefront on Earth remained calm for the time being. There were whispers of peace, rumors of negotiations. The Empire, once so focused on their conquest, now found themselves scrambling for survival. But Captain Hart knew the war was not truly over until every last piece of the Empire was defeated. The fight wasn't just for Earth, it was for every civilization the Empire had oppressed. "They're not done yet," Hart said as she stood in front of her crew. "The Empire's retreat is only temporary. They're planning something big. We can't let our guard down." Rivers nodded. "We won't. We'll follow them to the ends of the galaxy if we have to." The resolve was clear in their eyes. The Empire had made the mistake of underestimating humanity, but now it was their turn to pay the price. The final battle was coming. The Tyrant's Keep awaited, and the humans were ready to face it head-on. They wouldn't stop until the Empire was utterly defeated and every last remnant of their cruelty erased from the galaxy. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were conquerors. The Empire's final attempt. After months of relentless pursuit, Captain Hart's fleet finally reached the coordinates of Tyrant's Keep, the last fortress of the Galactic Empire. It was a place of legend. an imposing station hidden in the uncharted reaches of space, designed to withstand the fiercest of sieges. But the humans were no longer the underdogs. Their technology, their strategy, and their unity had made them a force the Empire never expected. The moment the human fleet entered the sector, Hart received a message from her command center. "Captain, we've detected the Empire's final fleet. They're holding position near Tyrant's Keep. It's heavily guarded, more so than we anticipated." "We knew it wouldn't be easy," Hart replied, her voice steady, but determination burned behind her words. "Prepare the fleet. We're going in." In the briefing room, Hart stood before her officers. "This is it. We've come a long way, and the Empire's last hope is sitting behind that wall of metal. We will destroy it and end their reign once and for all." The crew nodded, ready for the final push. There was no turning back now. The Dominants led the charge, followed by the rest of the human fleet. Their ships were a testament to their resilience, equipped with advanced technology and reinforced by the knowledge they had gained from their previous battles. They had faced impossible odds before, but this time they had the upper hand. The Tyrant's Keep loomed ahead, a giant in the void. Its dark silhouette cast a shadow across the nearby stars. The station was massive, fortified with layers of shields and weapons, more than anything the humans had ever encountered. The Empire had poured all its remaining strength into protecting this last bastion. On the command deck of the Resolute, Captain Hart gave the order. "Engage." The human fleet surged forward, their weapons primed. The Empire, caught off guard by the speed of their arrival, immediately opened fire. Bright beams of energy filled the void as the two fleets collided. The sheer size of the battle was overwhelming. The space around Tyrant's Keep turned into a war zone. "Shields up," shouted Lieutenant Rivers. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The Dominant swerved as laser blasts ricocheted off its shields. The force of the impacts rattled the crew, but they held firm. Hart's face was grim, her hands steady as she gave orders. She knew this would be their hardest fight yet. "This is it," Hart muttered to herself. "No more running." On the other side, the Empire's fleet, desperate to defend their last stronghold, unleashed everything they had. Battleships of immense size fired powerful energy beams, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. The Empire's fleet was formidable, but it was still scattered, uncoordinated after their previous defeats. Humanity had come too far, had fought too hard to allow the Empire a chance to regroup. On the Tyrant's Keep, Admiral Darwin paced anxiously. His empire was crumbling, and all their hope rested on this station. The humans had destroyed fleets before, but this time they were on his doorstep, his hands clenched into fists. "We cannot fail now," he shouted at his command staff. "This is our last chance. Hold them off at all costs." Tensions were high on both sides. The battle escalated into a brutal exchange of energy weapons, missiles, and tactical maneuvers. For every human ship that fell, another took its place. The Empire's ships fought fiercely, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer determination and skill of the human forces. As the battle raged on, Captain Hart's fleet began to push through the Empire's defenses. The Tyrant's Keep grew closer, its imposing form ready to face the might of the human fleet. They were on the brink of victory, but the hardest part was yet to come. "We're almost there," Lieutenant Rivers said, his voice filled with anticipation. Hart nodded. "Prepare the boarding teams. We end this today." The Tyrant's Keep was not just a battle. It was a symbol, the last bastion of the Empire's tyranny, and humanity was ready to put an end to it. The human ships advanced, their weapons primed for the final strike. The Empire was crumbling, but Darwin would not give up easily. He watched the holographic displays as human ships closed in on Tyrant's Keep. He knew his time was running out. "Send the last of the fighters. We will not surrender," Darwin shouted. His voice was filled with desperation. But Captain Hart, seeing the Empire's resolve beginning to crack, knew that victory was within reach. She stared at the dark silhouette of Tyrant's Keep ahead of them, her resolve hardening. "Today," she said quietly, "we take back the galaxy." The final assault began. As the human fleet closed in on the station, the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The fall of Tyrant's Keep. The final battle raged around the Tyrant's Keep, and the stakes could not have been higher. The human fleet, battered but unyielding, had broken through the Empire's defenses. They now hovered just outside the massive fortress, their weapons poised for the final blow. This was it, the culmination of everything they had fought for, everything they had endured. The Empire's reign of terror was coming to an end. Captain Hart stood firm on the command deck of the Dominance, her face a mask of focus and determination. Her officers were just as resolute, their hands moving swiftly across the controls. The Tyrant's Keep loomed before them, its enormous structure now a target for the humans' fury. Final strike in 3, 2, 1. Hart's voice was calm, despite the tension that filled the air. Engage. The first barrage of missiles tore through the shields of the Tyrant's Keep, shaking the entire station. The massive fortress retaliated, launching a counterstrike with its own devastating weapons. Explosions rang out in the cold void of space, but the humans were relentless. With every strike, the Empire's once unbreakable fortress began to crack. On the Tyrant's Keep, Admiral Darvin's hand trembled as he watched the shields fail under the barrage. The Empire had given everything to protect this last stronghold, but it wasn't enough. The humans were too strong, too determined. The holographic readouts showed critical damage to the station's core. His heart raced. "This can't be happening," Darvin shouted, his voice laced with panic. "We cannot fall. Not like this." But it was too late. The human fleet had found its mark, and with a final devastating strike, the Tyrant's Keep began to crumble. The station's massive structure groaned under the pressure as its core reactors began to overload. The once imposing fortress was now a dying beast, its power fading fast. Hart watched the spectacle unfold on the main screen. "We've done it," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. The victory was theirs. The Empire was no more. As the Tyrant's Keep spiraled toward destruction, Darvin issued one last order, hoping against hope that his forces could mount a counterattack. But his commands were useless. The Empire's last defense had failed, and the human fleet surged forward, securing their place in history. In the final moments before the station exploded, Captain Hart gave the order to retreat. There was no need to risk further lives now that victory was assured. The human fleet pulled away from the doomed station, watching as the Tyrant's Keep was consumed by a series of violent explosions, the force sending shockwaves through space. The Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, had fallen, and humanity had been the one to bring it down. As the human ships made their way back to their homeworlds, a sense of awe filled the crew. The mission had been a success. The Galactic Empire was no more. The once feared empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was now nothing more than a memory. Captain Hart stood on the command deck, her hands clasped behind her back, as she stared at the stars outside the viewport. There was no need for words. The victory spoke for itself. Humanity had done what no one had ever thought possible. They had toppled a galactic empire. But even as the human fleet sailed into the distance, Hart knew that this victory would have consequences. The galaxy would remember this day for centuries. The story of humanity's rise and the fall of the Galactic Empire would be passed down through generations. And as the stars stretched out before them, Hart couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. The battle had been hard, but humanity had come through it stronger than ever before. The future was bright, and the galaxy would never forget the day humanity took its place as the galaxy's new power. Humanity had won the war, but their story was far from over.